everybody that's here so far. We have got the fantastic, fabulous author CJ Jenkins. There she is. And she has come along to this live, and I'm really honoured to have you here. And CJ actually writes poetry. I love poetry, by the way. And CJ writes about love, about mental health, about survival in raw, unfiltered poetry. And I love that. I read that on your bio. Raw, unfiltered poetry. Say it again. Raw, unfiltered poetry.
Yes,
Love it.
yes. I pride myself on just putting it out there. And sometimes when I'm editing and like one time I was talking to my oldest daughter, she's 33. She was like, "You can't say that." I was like, "But I can. It's my book. I can. It's okay."
You go, you say it, you get it out there. Now, and well, no way do you have a 33-year-old, but we'll put that to the side because I've got a grown-up daughter as well. We're still rocking it. We're rocking it, right?
Yeah, how can we be 30 and they're 33? It's no way. It doesn't even make
way,
sense.
no way. It doesn't. We're still young and fresh. Now, CJ, how did you get into writing? Was it always a dream? Where did this all come from?
This is going to be like probably one of the weirdest stories that you ever have from an author. So literally, honestly, I've never written a day in my life. I started writing last October. I suffer with bipolar ADHD, and I was going through a mental health crisis. Started back in July, and as a result, I'm doing an intensive outpatient program for mental health. And one of the sessions is group therapy and is creative writing. And it was the choice between that and women health. So I chose women health. I was like, no, I'm not doing no creative writing. And I hated women health. I mean, no offense. These women were complaining about stuff that I had mastered years ago. I was like, oh yeah, I don't belong here. So I went over to creative writing begrudgingly. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I like this. And I'm writing and I'm writing and I'm like up at night with insomnia and I'm writing. And next thing you know, like the first couple of weeks, I have like 15 poems. And I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. So I go through this like hypomanic episode, if you are familiar with bipolar, and I'm on this 3-day binger. And in my mind, I'm going to write a book. I go to Chat GPT and I was like, how do you write a book? He was like, oh, you do this? I said, oh, I don't have an editor. He was like, I can be your editor. I was like, oh, for real? I said, for how much is that? He was like, for free. I was like, okay. So I'm writing my poetry, and that was not an easy feat. If you've ever used Chat GPT, it has a mind of its own. I'm like, hello, that's not what I wrote. Why you keep changing my work? Like I'm like literally. And so 3 days passed. I had a whole book of poetry because I had already had like 12 poems, and I don't remember how many are in here. And so I went to my daughter. She uploaded the KDP, and I was an author. And then I wrote another book like 3 weeks later. And then in February, I just published another one on February 1st. So in a matter of 3 months or so, I wrote 3 poetry books.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, and I didn't expect much out of it. It was really just helping me with my mental health. And people started reading the first book, and they was like, "No way, this is your first time writing." And I was like, "Yeah." And I was like, they was like, "No." And I thought it was just my friends and family saying it, and then strangers started saying it, and they was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Oh," they was like, "No, you really." I was like, "Okay, so I'm just going to keep doing this," and it's really been. I can't even tell you what it's done for my mental health. There are no words to express. I mean, through anger, tears. A friend of mine, her daughter had, you know, unalived herself a few weeks back. And I was sitting there and I was like, how can I comfort her?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, she didn't believe in, she didn't have any spirituality. So I was like, okay, I need to write this around somebody who doesn't believe. And I wrote it to her, and it was so much gratitude. Like, and she said, I have to tell you something. She said, I left the funeral, and she said, I hadn't read your book. She said, I'm gonna be honest. It was in the side of my car door. She said, I picked up your book, and she said, this doesn't even sound real. She said, I opened it up, and it was to the day where you were going to commit suicide. I said, you're lying. She said, out of all the things, she said, just reading that gave me some kind of comfort, knowing that, she said, we're still here, even though my daughter struggled, because she struggles as well. And she said, out of all the pages for me to turn to, and the one thing that's in my car door was your book. And that really touched me. And when I started realizing how not only was this poetry healing me, but it was healing others.
Yeah.
It was mind blowing. And I still have like imposter syndrome because, like I said, I've only been doing this for a few months, and I'm up against authors who've been writing for years. Like one guy was like, I've been writing my book for 20 years. And I'm like, am I doing this wrong? Like, because I'm like,
oh, wow. What a story. What a story. And the thing is, right, I've always said this, words have so much power. You talk about, oops, my camera, you talk about mental health. I mean, I've experienced it in a big way with, a family member. So, and I think like back then they referred to it as manic depression. Back in those days, we're talking about now some what that 20 or 20 plus years ago, and they didn't know as much about it then. It was taboo, it was a taboo subject. So now, it's an open topic. We should be talking about it. We should, etc. And one thing I say is that words have so much power, and there's so much. I went through a difficult time when I was a young girl. We emigrated and went to West Africa. And I've probably talked about this before, but we during that time it was such hardship that you wouldn't see that hardship in the Western society, that actually books were a solace. And that's where I loved reading as a child. And we couldn't really go out and do much other than school and come back. And then it was books. Books were the escapism. So, I always think like somebody's book, whether it's fiction, poetry, a novel, whatever, those words can have so much of a effect on somebody in terms of, the situation they're going through, can inspire them, it can help them, it can heal them, as your books are doing, which is a wonderful, fantastic thing, right? So, never underestimate that. And the fact that you say, you've been doing this for a few months is like, wow, it's like you found your calling. You did by accident, almost by accident.
It does. And that's the beauty of it, because I don't, having mental health disorder, there are no words to express how horrific it is. And I think society just doesn't realize, unless you've experienced it or you have a close loved one, people tend to downplay it. They was like, oh, just pray or just smile. And I'm not saying prayer doesn't work in meditation and yoga and all those things, but it's just not that simple. You wake up in the morning and, most people wake up and be like, oh, I'm so glad. I got to wake up and check my mood and be like, okay, who am I today? Where am I today? Can I go to work today? Because my depression doesn't care if I don't have any sick leave or care if my daughter has to go to school or she has a school trip. And so I wanted my readers to see firsthand what it's like. And one of the biggest compliments that I've received, and I still, every time I hear this, is I feel your story. I can picture your story. I feel the emotion. And that to me is like, I nailed it. And for the first time in my life, and I'm trying to make sure I don't get emotional, I feel like I did something right. Like I grew up in that household where nothing you did was good enough. The grades weren't good enough. You didn't look good enough. I grew up where dark-skinned girls were not pretty. We weren't looked for. I was tall and awkward and dark-skinned, and I didn't have the latest fashion. So, and writing all of this, in addition to therapy, is healing me.
Yeah.
And it's taken away the stigma of mental health, because it doesn't have a prejudice. As we see celebrities, no matter how much money, race, family dynamic, parent household, it doesn't, it's no prejudice with it.
Absolutely. And talking on the point of the healing part of the writing, I'm a big journaler. I've been journaling for years. I've probably got about 17 journals. I don't mean Dear Diary every day. I mean things like, getting that emotion, even the raw emotion out. It's so good. Like if you're angry, you're upset about something, the day went wrong, and you write about it. For me, I'm a spiritual person. I do believe in a higher power. Some people say the universe, but I say God. So I will write from my prayers and how I talk to God and everything like that. And I'll write how, if I'm angry, feeling angry about stuff and that. And then the thing is, it's so therapeutic. Or if something happened, and then you can look back and see how you got through that actually as well, and see, oh my God, I was really, really low then. And then now, this happened, or I did this and did that. And now look what's happened. You can kind of celebrate coming out of that difficult time as well, can't you? It helps you to look at, not only look at, the dark times and express those dark times, or whatever, but also look at what did you do to try and self-help and try and get through that, or try to cope. What did you do? And how did you come out of that? How did you survive that?
Yes, and I think that's what it is. It's a survival story. When people read these stories, and it's so funny you say this. I was thinking the other day, I remember it was September 13th. I put the 10th in the book, but I wrote the wrong date. I think about September the 13th. If I had completed the act of, because you can't say but so much on here, I would have never found my niche. Because if I'm 40, I'll be 50 this month.
Yeah.
And I was like, it took me 49 years to realize something that I'm good at. But
Yeah.
had September had I checked out, this wouldn't have happened. And
Yeah.
I want people to see that, like, because
Yeah.
I kept thinking it was hopeless in this, and and I was talking to one of the gentlemen in group therapy, and he's an older gentleman, and he was like, "It's just been 50 years of bad things." And I said, "I'm 49, and I'm gonna tell you something. At 49, it's not perfect. I'm still struggling." I said, "But I found my niche. For the first time in my life, somebody loves me. I have people that I found here. I talk about in my latest book something called community, and I
Yeah.
kept feeling like something was missing me, and it was my community. TikTok has shown up for me in ways you can't imagine. I mean, through
Wow.
everything that I've gone through. So I'm like, I found love, I found my niche, I found true friendship. So it's never too late. And so I know when you're in that dark space, because I've been there way too many times, that it's hard to see it because I have to fight daily. And, for me, my children keep me here. I still have a
Yeah.
15-year-old,
Cool.
so I can't leave. But for somebody that don't have anything to hold on, I try to tell them one day, one decision. Who knew that a mental health disorder would send me to therapy, that would send me to therapy to find this? And
Yeah.
so I just tell people to try to hold on. You don't know what that one thing is going to be because this was not in the cards for me.
Wow. And that's it. That whole, the purpose. People can have like an existential crisis as well and be like, oh, what's the purpose of my life? Why am I here? And this is part of the human experience, isn't it? I
Yes.
think most people at some point in their life, not everybody, but most people would have got experienced something like, why am I here? What? Yeah, we've got to do
And I
something.
can't type back to you guys. I got these nails on, so sorry if you're in the chat. My nails
Uh,
are too long to type. So
they're lovely. If
thank
you
you.
see if you see any questions, because you might see them before I do, intentional journaling, someone saying, do call it out, interrupt me if you see any questions. But yeah, I think like what was I saying? No, I
Oh,
lost
which
my
one?
I lost my
Yeah,
phone.
and I've been searching for my, and I kept, because why we do believe in God, and I've been asking God for years, what's my purpose? And every time I would think I would kind of find it, it kind of be like, no, this is not it. This is not it. And so this has been, I mean, like you said, no matter whether I'm happy, sad. I remember something as small as my boyfriend asked me to make him some cookies. So
Yeah.
back in November, he were long distance. I was going to see him, and I said, "Oh, I'm going to make these cookies." And so his favorite cookies are snickerdoodle, peanut butter, and oatmeal raisin. And I was sitting there and I was thinking about how much love you put into a recipe.
Yeah.
And out of that came a poem. I wrote a poem about our love language compared to cookies. And it's just so amazing how just something like a simple recipe can pull out a poem. And I was
Wow.
like,
Yeah. Absolutely. And that is the beauty of our imagination. And the thing, you've tapped into your imagination, you've found your niche, your calling, your God-given calling, that actually you're writing these poems and they're having an impact on people in such a positive way. They're helping people. You don't know how many people have hung on because of those poems, because of those words. And that's just fantastic. And you're literally, your books full of, like, you writing books full of poetry like that? Do they have certain topics, or are they just, yeah?
so each of them, so I have three books now, like I was
Oh,
saying. So like,
let's see the covers. Yeah.
okay, so just fun fact, if you can see it, my 15-year-old did this cover. So
Oh,
basically
wow.
it's an empty room full of darkness, and this is depression sitting in a corner.
Yeah. Yeah, I
And
saw that on your page. Yeah.
yeah, just to let you know, she didn't know I was writing a book. That was just so happy. I said, I'm going to write a book. And I said, can you do the cover? And I came in and she was like, I said, how did you know? She said, you said it was about depression. Hey, Janine, say
Oh,
everybody in the chat. Hey, guys. Yes, please.
hi.
Yeah, and it's, oh, let me turn this off. It was just so, I'm sorry, somebody's trying to text me and I told you my nails. I want to make sure I turn it off.
Love the nails. Yours are longer than mine. We've
Thank
got
you.
the
They're
same
both
color.
red, red minds.
Snap.
Yeah. So like, oh man, something must have been wet, but like some of it, like one part says, oh crap. Oh no, what did I do? Hold on. Sorry.
Don't worry.
I got a phone call and I don't know how, like, unfortunately with the phone, you can't put it on do not disturb. So, because it'll take the sound out. But like, it talks about like different sections. Like one section is, am I normal? And that basically was me trying to figure out as growing up, because I wasn't diagnosed till later. So we'll go back into that. It was me trying to figure out what was wrong with me because I was like, okay. And then comes crisis, and that was me going through the mental crisis, and then later finding my diagnosis, and then removing the mask, finally getting the help, realizing I don't have to walk around pretend to be happy, that it was okay not to be okay, and that I could be fully myself, and how that was helping more people than me pretending to be okay. And I'll
Yeah.
never forget. One day I was at work. We work in a call center, And one of the ladies turned to me that sat next to me, Bridget, and she said, "You can get some help for that." And I had no idea what she was talking about. I said, "For what?" She said, "You're depressed." And I was like, "No, I'm not." And she was like, "Yes, you are." And I was like, and I ignored it because she didn't know what she was talking about. I was like, "I'm fine." And a couple years later, I had a whole breakdown. I mean, it was horrible. Like I couldn't breathe, and I ended up having to go get help. And she was right. I was bipolar. And
Yeah.
she could see it, but I couldn't see it because I was just walking around smiling, pretending to be okay. But I would go to the bathroom sometimes and have full panic attacks because
Yeah.
pretending to be okay.
Yeah. So
So
I think there's a lot of people out there. There will be a lot of people out there that can relate to and connect to that. So the fact that you talk about it, the fact that you write about it, and the fact that I love the fact that you've put them in kind of sections with headers, that actually it's almost like someone who picks up that book can just go to that section and relate to how what you've written, and relate to the author and relate to that. And though I don't want to put you on the spot, but I kind of do, we would love to hear you read a poem at some point in this live. So
I was prepared for that. So I was prepared for you to ask me that.
yeah.
So I just pulled out like 3 poems just in case you asked me. I didn't know how many or whatever. I said, so let me have some just in case. And and like you said, it's funny how you hear one thing and it pulls out so much poetry. And so a lot of times when I'm in group therapy, I try to pull out something that everybody is saying that is like forbidden. Like, it's certain things I don't think people talk about in the mental health community enough that you can't function on day to day. So what are your daily functions? Self-care, brush your teeth, wash your hair. And, and I remember when I first became depressed because I wasn't, that low. And this lady was like, I haven't showered in 3 weeks. And I was like, and I tried not to make that face, but I was like, what is she talking? And this is the lowest I've ever been. Last year, 2025 took me out. And I remember it was like 9 days. And I was like, you might want to get in the shower. Like you just don't even realize the time is passing you and you're not doing anything. Like I just was rotting in a bed. It was just crazy.
And I think as well, people can relate to that, who even, like, for example, you remind me of a time where, like, I'd experienced loss, and that even though that was a temporary period of feeling low, down, depression, that was because of loss, because that happens, that can happen at any point in anybody's life. So, and then when you're going through something like that, you don't self-care, you don't want to, and it takes somebody, sometimes it can take someone to notice it, so a kind friend to actually give you a helping hand with that. So and then you get the help. It's always about ask for help as well. So I think it's good to signpost as well, signpost people to where they can get help, certainly.
Yes. And one of the things that's really been helpful for me, and I apologize, I have allergies. The mental health community that's on social media. I mean, a lot of times, in group therapy, it's only like 8 or 10 of us, so you may not run into the same things. But I'm learning that on like TikTok and Facebook, the communities are thousands of people, pretty much all saying the same thing. And I started feeling like, because there's sometimes my like medication person may have not heard of what I'm talking about. I mean, they have a lot to learn. And I'm like, this is a symptom. And she's like, that's not a symptom. And then I'll go to Facebook and everybody was like, yes, I have that too. So even though it's not in the DSM-5, it is very much so a symptom. And I'm like, what I'm coming to realize is we all have money problems. I thought I was just irresponsible, which I could be, but everybody, I ain't gonna say everybody, 85% of the people who have bipolar that I've come across have spending problems. They just spend, they spend and they spend. And I'm like, and it started making me feel better. Like, it's not just me. I'm seen. Like, I'm like, okay, because I just was like, when are you going to be responsible? You're going to be 50 this year. Like, when are you going to get it together? And I'm like, it feels like I'm outside of myself sometimes.
And just to know that there are other people that are going through similar, that have those same challenges, you can connect. Then that's the thing, whilst technology has totally transformed our lives and the way we do things, and sometimes you can say, oh, people are less meeting less face to face. It's detracted from certain things. It's also brought a lot of things, good things. There are pros and cons. There are some things that
we would have never met.
Yeah.
I think about the people that I never would have met had it not been technology.
I know. And look at us on different continents having a live
Who would have thought? Like,
Exactly. All through a little Facebook comment, hi, and
and I'm so glad, and that's one of the things too, that I'm learning in mental health. Not everybody, but a lot of them are isolated because people misunderstand them, and you like have these manic episodes, and you do these really horrible things, and you lose a lot of friendships. And I said, I'm so thankful that I have people that love me through my mess. I
yeah,
mean, because I've had some things that I've done, and I'll be like, what is wrong with you? And like those people just still come in and be like, it's okay, we're still here. And I'm like, "Okay, thank you." But it's so many people that don't have those people. And
yeah.
I'm like, whew,
And what do they do? It's like what's like we talked about. My anchor. I know I've got my faith. That's my anchor.
yeah,
But what about someone who hasn't got that anchor, or hasn't got the anchor of family, or supportive family? Sometimes people have families, but they're not supportive, or friends, or etc. Or there are a lot of people that are alone. So they can find something in a book like yours.
yes.
And I can testify to books really transforming my life as well. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I remember um when I discovered Christian fiction a while back, and I was like, there's Christian books that are novels. And it was just like, and I remember I found this lady, her name was Ellen Kroc or something like that, and she had a series. And it was so bad, I started writing her. I was like, when is the next book coming out? And she was like, you're reading them faster than I can write them. I said, I know, but I need to know what's going to happen because like,
What was she writing about? What kind of
it
stories?
was just like so it kind of was like a 8 series book, and it started with them, I want to say, as children, and
Okay.
it took them all the way through college, through beyond college. I don't remember how far it went because this was a few
Oh,
years back,
yeah.
but she still is very much sold on Amazon. And I mean, it took me in a way a book had never took me in before. And I don't know if maybe that was my first, no, because I used to read Sidney Sheldon's series, so it wasn't that. But that series just did something for me. I mean, and like you said, it was Christian, so
Yeah.
it was clean. And not that I'm like super Christian, like I curse and stuff, of course, but it was just something still so wholesome about it, but still worldly at the same time, where they were still
Yeah.
facing the same things, but it was Christ based. So you felt like, okay, I can push through. So that was really, it just really broadened my reading. Like I was like, I love this because all of my friends
Oh,
were reading like urban novels, and I grew up on Sidney Sheldon and things like that. So I was like, they was like, who's your favorite author? I was like, Sidney Sheldon. I read all his books, and they was like, who? And I was like, oh, he's amazing. Like it was like so.
I haven't read any of his books actually. I don't know his books. I haven't read them. But after
Oh,
this, I'll probably look him up and just see. So I know. I like to know who people are talking about as well. Like when they talk about authors. So yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
years back. I mean, we're probably talking 20 plus years ago. I mean, like, and it was just like it's just certain authors I would just gravitate towards. And
Yeah.
so I love how diverse reading is. Like you can read so many different genres, and whether it's Christian or fiction or science fiction or romance or thriller, or you just have a plethora. So I was like,
It
when
is. Yeah.
people when they say they don't like to read, I'm like, there's so many different things you can read. Like there's
So
something
many,
for
so
everyone.
many. Like for me, I wasn't really brought up a Christian, right? So I grew up reading. I mean, I loved like C.S. Lewis Chronicles as a child, Chronicles of Narnia, and my first book. You can see the lion there. It's a little bit inspired by you know the Hobbit, that sort of thing, as in fantasy books. And then I also read things like I read the classics, like Jane Austen, Charles Dickens, and I read what do you call it? Then I read Agatha Christie. I loved Agatha
I
Christie.
haven't read anything about
Agatha Christie was like mystery, murder mystery like, but in a kind of old fashioned way she wrote, I would say, probably. And I think she wrote like over 200 books. But actually, even Agatha Christie, she was a single parent, and at a point when her husband left her, she wanted to, she didn't want to be around anymore. And then imagine if she hadn't, she wouldn't have written those 200 books, and where she ended up, how she ended up, becoming a famous author. But yeah, I read all sorts, so diverse. I read even Stephen King, all of those. What's her name? Who wrote Flowers in the Attic?
the Andrews.
Yeah, Virginia Andrews. I read like oh, and then I read trashy novels like like Mills and Boon's trashy one.
Y'all like the trashy ones. Okay, I love the trashy ones. Let's not act like we don't, okay? And I love erotica too.
Them when
I
I was
will
a
read
teenager.
I'll read it all.
Uh,
I'll read it all. Now this is the thing that people, this is the disadvantage of sometimes Sometimes when I go through a manic episode, my hobbies change. Like I don't enjoy them. Like I had stopped working out for 6 months. And if anybody who knew me, I work out every day. Like that was unheard of. And I just got back on the bike about a week and a half ago.
Okay.
So I kind of lost my love for reading. I'm
Yeah.
trying to get back there. So, because I'm like, you can't have people reading your book and you won't read theirs. But it's like almost like a blockage. Like I'm reading a chapter and I'm like, what did I just read? And I have
Yeah.
to go back and back. And so even
Right.
with TV, I had to keep rewinding. And I was like, okay, once I come out of this depressive
Yeah.
episode, because I'm claiming that I'm coming out of it sooner than
Yeah.
later,
I know.
hopefully I'll be able to get back into all that because it's such a great escape. Like you said, the power of words and taking you to another place. And
Oh,
I
it
miss
is.
that.
Oh, I love it. I mean, like my books, a fantasy adventure. Okay, um, there is actually some people. I would say some of the people that have reviewed it didn't pick up on that, but some people, somebody, it was an American lady, she reviewed it and she picked up. She sort of said there's a Christian allegory, but you wouldn't necessarily know that if you know what I mean. Like if you didn't. Yeah, you might not necessarily pick that, but it's a good versus evil, it's almost like a spiritual warfare type of, yeah, like that on those
Okay, I'm
books.
gonna
So,
check that
you
out for
know,
sure.
but it does go into a bit dark, there's you know how your imagination just goes, it goes into a bit of dark fantasy because you've got to show the good versus evil battles and stuff like that. So those are mine.
And
But
I
yeah,
love that. I
yeah,
love that books are realistic. Like when I read or watch something, it needs to be real. Like I'm not your fantasy. I mean, of course, unless it's a love story, we're going to go for a little notebook. But I like things that are like real life or things that I can say, okay, this could everything can't be all good or all bad. There has to be a
no,
little
yeah,
sprinkle of
probably,
everything.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
So
yeah,
even in my depressive episode, like I have a couple of pieces where I'm like, I try to throw a little bit of humor, a little bit of like
yeah,
question, and try to put it in there. And then like also in the back of this book, I don't know if you knew, it's also a part called Forbidden Love, which was a product of me being in an affair. And I talk about that affair openly. And that was one of the biggest things I was scared about printing my book because I didn't know how that was going to be perceived. Because morally, we know it's wrong. And
yeah,
surprisingly, only had one person say something to me throughout the book, and I was like, and they wrote it on my Amazon, and it bothered me, but I was like, I, these are my stories. I promise to be raw and unfiltered, and that's what I'm going to continue to be.
yeah,
I try not to live in shame because we're all human. We all have something we battle with, and that story, like everything else, is going to help somebody going through something.
yeah.
And so,
I
I
think
believe.
you're pouring out kind of your inner thoughts, feelings. It doesn't, poetry, I think is so deep, it's it can't, I don't think it can be filtered. I don't know. I wouldn't want to necessarily all of the finest poetry that you read, it's like it's so meaningful, I think.
It's
Yeah.
intimate. You letting
Some of it
somebody
some of
into
it
the
makes
most
you
intimate.
cry, you just
Oh my God. Now that I was not prepared for. Now let me tell you something.
mm,
I was not prepared for somebody to cry behind my poetry. And every time it happens, it mortifies me. It's to the point where I almost don't want to read that poem anymore. Because I first read it for this poem called I'm Okay, I'm Fine.
yeah.
And I read it for my best friend first. And I heard her sniffling and she was on the phone. I was like, you okay? She
Oh,
was crying so hard. I was like, I'm so sorry. She said, no, and so then I called my daughter and she was crying, which was understandable. It was my daughter. And I was somewhere and the person started to cry. I said, okay, I'm not reading this anymore. I said, I'm not reading this anymore. That was not my intentions. It was just a vulnerable part of my life. And I spoke on it because I needed people to know where you're at and what's your train of thought when things are like that happen. Because you hear people say that SI is selfish and all of these things. And I need people to realize it's not selfish. You are literally fighting for your life. And sometimes you can't see anything outside of that. And luckily in that moment, it just so happened that in therapy a couple of days before, a lady's sister had hung herself. And as I'm sitting here about to take these pills, I remember that story. And I remember how the lady said the daughter found her and my daughter's here. And I said, is that what you want do you want your daughter to find you? And that snapped me out of it. And so I had to write that poem. I had to let somebody know, like, that's my friend Kia. That's funny when I was talking about, she said, I hear you talking about me. Yes, I'm talking about you.
uh-huh.
Yes. So, and you guys feel free to ask questions. But yeah, it's just so crazy in those moments. And so when I say it's raw and unfiltered, And I put a trigger warning in front of my book because it is mental health. You want to, make sure you're looking out for other people to let them know, hey, this may trigger you because there's some really deep stuff in here. And so I just want us to normalize, take away the stigma behind mental health because it's so real. And there's so many people who don't get help because of the stigma behind it.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's absolutely true. And I think that, for those people that are suffering and they're not getting help, they do need to know what's out there. Somebody needs to share with them what is out there, and I think if you put the trigger warnings. I guess I haven't really looked at many books around that topic, but I don't know whether some of them like put a bit of signpost in perhaps in the back or something like that. That's probably good handy, something that's quite good as well.
Yeah,
But what
I put it like right in the front of the book. Like, as soon as you get past maybe the acknowledgments is right there, trigger. So that way it stops you. And, so because
yeah,
you are responsible for, people's well being. Somebody could be in a really dark space and read something and be like, this lady 50 and still going through it. I'm not staying around for that. You don't know what mind frame somebody might be in. So I want to make sure that I'm protecting the people that are reading as well.
yeah, and I guess that's a topic that comes up. I don't know if you're in like a lot of author groups and author chats because it is a topic that comes up. So, for example, I didn't put trigger warnings in my fantasy books, but then and we were having a chat. Some of us authors having a chat, but then actually from my reviews, no one said anything.
I don't
But
think you did it for fantasy. I don't think
yeah,
you
and
would.
I think people expect there's going to be fighting
Yeah,
and
you know what you're
harm
looking
and
for.
things. Yeah, like so. Yeah, I think people expect that. But I guess in a way, I would say each to their own in terms of. But yes, I think the topic matters when if you're writing about mental health, you're talking about that, and you're going into some deep things, then that makes sense to put your triggers.
Yes,
It does make
exactly.
sense. Yeah, yeah. So, how many books have you written?
Three. Three.
And
So I had,
are they all
um,
poetry?
yeah, so poetry and short story. So the first one is just all poetry and reflections. The second one is Love in the Shadows. This is specifically
Oh,
love poems to a guy I was dating. And there's a short story in the back that's actually fictional. So it's not, and I left it like with a cliffhanger. So the short story doesn't finish. And then, so in the third book, which is a little thicker, it's called 50 Unfiltered. This one is short stories, reflections, and poetry. And the cliffhanger that ended in two, the answer to that is in book three. So it kind of
wow.
like, okay, if you want to know what happened, pick up book three,
Yeah.
you can see how it ended. So yes.
That's a,
So
that reminds me of my book one is like that, and then that you have to find out in book two. But carry on, sorry.
yeah, so pretty much the only one is just all poetry is the first book. The other two are poetry, short stories, and reflections.
Oh, yeah.
And this one pretty much has the meat of a lot, like quite a few short stories in it. And that's because as a result of people inboxing me saying, I wish it was a little bit more than poetry. And I was like, oh, okay, I just started writing, but okay, I'll write a short story. Okay. And I just wrote one and I was like, oh, this wasn't as hard. Now I don't know if I could write a novel, but I was like, the short story just came. And in my friend always jokes, he's like, because you're a Pisces, your whole brain is a movie. It's like, and it is. It's like,
And that's the thing. I do
oh,
that
so
as well. I just realised you got a question. Are you planning book four?
great question. So actually, I am. I had no intentions of writing another book at all. And I was in therapy a couple of days ago, and I told the therapist that I started falling back into depression because everything was done. This was helping me push through. And I said, now that the books are done and published, I feel myself being sad again and I don't have anything. She said, write another book. And I was like, oh, okay, you can just keep writing them. She's like, yeah, just write another one. So this morning, I started writing another book. So
Oh,
this one will
wow.
be a little different and I can share it with you guys. So what I'm going to do in this book, and I don't know if anybody has done this before. It was just something I had an idea, but of course, all ideas are repeated.
Yep.
Instead of it just being poetry, it's going to be behind the pen, behind it. So each poem is going to have the poem, and then on the next page is going to have why I wrote that poem, what inspired it, what triggered
Oh,
it.
that's good.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
so
really
this is
good.
just
Yeah,
something I thought of this morning. Like my brain is always on go, and
yeah.
so
I hear you. Same. Yep.
so yesterday I had wrote like three poems, and so today I wrote what made them behind it. So I'll give you a little bit of one.
Yeah.
I was in a group chat on TikTok a couple of days ago, and somehow we started talking about infidelity. And I was telling them how I've been on both sides of it. My
Yeah.
ex-husband left me for another woman. I've dated a married man. So I said, I have a little bit of insight from both. I said, so as I'm talking about it, I'm laying in the bed replaying the conversation, and I was like, you need to write something about how this affair started, because everybody always look, and not that affairs are okay, but everybody always look at it as from a intimate standpoint. But sometimes you grow apart. Sometimes you marry the wrong person, and it doesn't condone it, but I want people to see how it starts. I think about my friend who was married, a woman, and her husband just ain't pay her no attention. And he just, whatever, whatever. And I had to write from that standpoint of, this woman isn't getting flowers. This person isn't it. And then you have this coworker that you're not looking to have an affair with, but it builds because they're doing little things for you. They're paying you attention. They're having these conversations. And then you start to feed that. And then next thing you know, you're in this full blown affair. And so I don't think a lot of times it happens overnight. It's needs not being met from conversations not being had. So in that poem, I talk about that, and then I go to explain how I came across the poem because of that conversation.
Yeah.
So I think this will be like a good thing to see what's behind the author's mind.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely good to see that. I think that's different as well. Because I don't know that I've ever seen poetry where it talks about, why, and sometimes you read these classic poems and you think it brings the emotion. You think, where were they in their life at that point when they, you want to know, don't you? And I'll Google them, Wikipedia, to find out about them. So, yes. You got some lovely messages there.
Thank you.
Amazing, brilliant. Keep going.
And I'm going to give her a little bit of credit. What kind of prompted me to do that is Taylor Swift. I don't know if anybody's a Taylor Swift fan. And most of her CDs and albums, she will have what's behind the music. She will talk about what promoted the song or where she was at when she wrote the song. And so I love how she does that, because sometimes she writes a song and Taylor Swift uses words I've never heard before. Like her brain is brilliant. If you've ever really listened to the words, I'm like, what does that word mean? Or what does she mean? And so I love how she breaks it down. And I was like, I'm going to write a book like that. I'm going to break it down. I want people to know this was the emotion. This is what happened. This is whatever. And so it kind of was a little bit of, piggybacking off of what she's doing, but in an important way.
Yeah, I mean, it's an idea that just boom comes to you and you're inspired by someone. I think we're all influenced in some way or inspired by another author or from childhood or whenever, or something that we see. Even I can see something, like just be sitting in a coffee shop and watch people talking or something, and some idea comes to my mind. It's your creative mind, but it gives you that great idea. So have you already started this, or you're just starting it? You've already
started. Yeah. So I had 3 poems and 3 behind the scenes already. So I'm not sure how many I'm going to write, because like for 50 Unfiltered, it was only supposed to be 50 items. And I ended up with like 80. So I couldn't stop writing. Like every time I thought I was finished, I started in December. And I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to write 50 things by February 1st. But I'm going to try. And next thing you know, it was like not even January 2nd. It were just, the ideas just started rolling. And I was like, oh, and my daughter read like the first chapter yesterday of the first poems. And she was like, these are good. She's like, I really love that 3 words. She was like, and to hear your child say that, I was like, yes. And she's 33. So, and she was like, she put something on Instagram and she was like, I'm so proud of my mom. She wrote 3 books. They're really great. And I was like, and my daughter is not one of those people to sugarcoat it. Like, she's going to tell you. So it really meant a lot.
You got another question. How did it feel when you held your first book?
It felt surreal. Like, again, because this wasn't in my cards. Like, I never aspired to be an author. I had never written before. So to hold that book in my hand, and especially because, like I said, my daughter drew the cover, made it even more special, because I was like, this is the legacy. Like, this is generations right here. Like, this is me writing in my daughter's artwork. So it brought tears to my eyes. And then I had people calling me as they started receiving the book and giving me all this feedback. And I have imposter syndrome. I was like, they're just saying that. But sometimes I'll go back and read a poem and I'll be like, you wrote that.
This is good.
Yes.
The wonderful thing about it is when you're talking to another author, we relate to each other on it. I'm like this. I relate to your experience, because it's like I'll go, do you know my first book? And I said it on one of my videos. I wrote the book. Wrote 11 months it took me, because over 100,000 words, and I gave it to a proofreader. She was the only person that read it. I didn't give it to friends. I didn't give it to beta readers or whatever. I didn't give it to anyone else. And then she proofread it. I redone it. I checked it again, and then I published it. And nobody. I didn't even tell anyone at first, like family and friends, until I was like, oh, let me slowly start telling people. Oh, guess what? I've written a book. Then it gets louder and louder.
You're like, did I do this? Did this just really happen? Am I off?
I know, and I held it in my hands. I was like, wow. And then I reread some bits, and you're like, oh, what? That's good, because you're not sure, are you? And then when you start getting the reviews, you're like, oh, actually, yeah.
And it's so bad that I like went back and listened to some of my drafts to see if I really wrote it. Like, who else was going to? I was like, did I really write this? Like,
oh, it's fantastic though. So you found your passion, and do you want this to be your main hustle one day? Is your side hustle for now, or is it going to be your main hustle?
It's been 3 or 4 months. I don't even know what it is. It's just kind of like I just keep writing. So I mean, if something great comes out of it, listen, I receive it. Because I have been looking for my thing. And I actually thought now, because at one point I was going to go to school for marketing, and I was kind of like, I wish I would have pursued marketing, because it would have gave me that to best of both worlds. I could write, I could market, I could whatever. So I mean, if somebody said I could do this full time, I wouldn't hesitate. I would not, because I really enjoy it. But it's so new, and I'm just right now in a hobby. But I would love for this to be full time. I would really love it.
Yeah, and these things can happen. Keep believing, keep dreaming, keep going, and it's small steps, isn't it? Because Rome wasn't built in a day. We know it's more a marathon, not a sprint, and it takes time. But word of mouth is so powerful. Word of mouth, and then you've got your social media as well. You don't know. We might have most of the interviews that I've been doing. We've had a handful of viewers, but then people share, and people like. And you know what? One of the authors I interviewed, she messaged me and she said, "Oh, she's had she was having a live on Facebook, and they'd seen the interview and they were talking about it. So you see."
Wow.
There you go. So
the beauty of social media. That's why sometimes people be like, oh, I don't like social media. I say, you're using it in the wrong way. You use it the way that it works for you. Like, you don't let it use you. You use it. You don't have to come on here every day. You use it to market. You use it to find friends, family. I've found so many of my childhood friends from over the years. I'm like, hey, I remember you from elementary school. So it's you use it to your advantage.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So CJ, are you going to pick one of your favorite poems to read?
Oh, that's what I was thinking. Like, the more I talk, I'm like, do I read this one? Do I read? I think I want to read something out of the new book, if that's okay.
Yeah, go for it.
Right. And so give me a second. I didn't bookmark it, and I'm sorry. Give me a second. If anybody has any questions,
take your time. I'm looking for questions while you find your page. Don't you worry. Okay. Take your time. Just checking to see if there's any questions in there that we missed. We had a few. No, we're all good.
All right, so this one is one and a newer one, and just because we mentioned community, that's what, as I was talking to you, I said that's a good one to read, because it talks about the beauty of social media and how community really comes in, and which heals your mental health. And I know you had talked about like journaling. I don't write. I journal on TikTok. Every morning I get on and I call it morning rant. And I just literally talk for 9-10 minutes about whatever's going on. And people input, and they be like, well, how's Chloe now? And it's just like my own personal journal.
That's lovely. That is lovely.
All right, I'm going to try not to be nervous. Okay. So this one is called Community, and it's in the latest book, 50 Unfiltered, The Emergence. And this is in celebration of my 50th birthday, this February 23rd. All right. There are 8 components to fulfill a life: work, home, spirituality, finances, health, relationships, purpose, and community. Every 6 months, I fill in the chart. It always looks fine. Every year, I'm working on 1 or 2 things. Finances. Let's not kid ourselves. That'll be a lifelong assignment unless I get a husband, and my husband is absolutely not about to let me fail. I thought the final step was spirituality. I really did. I pray, I go to church, I listen to worship, I feel the Holy Ghost. So it wasn't that. Home is home, work is work, no matter what the job is. I have friends, I have family, I have my beautiful daughters, but still something was missing. Community. I found it. Not in the titles people gave me, not mom, not representative, not sister Karina, not my trauma story, not my labels, not my fashion, not my quick wit. This is where I discovered the real unfiltered me, the vulnerable me, the transparent me, the humble me, the me that not only poured into others, but they poured into me. I shared the most intimate details on a forum filled with millions, not worrying about how they landed, just hoping my people would gravitate towards me and understand. They saw me, they heard me, they looked for my therapy stories, they looked for my relationship stories, they asked about my children. They didn't ask for anything in return other than for me to simply be me. And that's what was missing. It was all along the community.
Oh, round of applause. I don't know if there's a round of applause button. There probably is, but I don't know where it is.
Yeah, I don't even know how to. Yeah.
Love that.
And so, and I was just sitting here because, like I said, in group therapy, we fill out this chart, and it talks about the things, the 8 components of that makes a successful life.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, what is it? What is it? I had been searching for it for so long, and I thought it was in a relationship, and I was like, well, it's not church, it's not a relationship. And when I came to TikTok and I started using it, I was like, these are my people. I found them. Like,
You found your tribe. You found your tribe. Oh, and that part about the, accepting you as you are, and not expecting anything back, and they see you and they're asking how those are the kind of things, they're the things that really resonate, because it's like the important things, being seen, being known, because as human beings, we are no man's an island, as they say. Yeah.
And yes, Susie, great. I love when I hear other people say they found that, because you hear so many negative comments around social media, but you hear the great parts of like, and I'm just going to be totally transparent with you guys. I had ran into a gambling addiction a year ago, and I'm losing everything at this point. I mean, I didn't have any money, and I was on here just talking about it, not asking for anything. And when I tell you the Cash App started pouring, one lady who don't even know me, she was like, "What's your phone number?" She was like, "This is my credit card, pay your gas and electric." I was like, "You don't even know me." She said, "Pay your gas and electric." Like, people pouring into you that never met you a day in their life, don't know my story. And it just, I was blown away. I was like, oh my gosh, I just never would imagine that a community of strangers who never, but they knew me from my stories, from being on here for 2 years, just talking freely.
Yeah. It is amazing. You make friends that actually you've never met in person in your life, but because you've connected, like you say, over a duration of 2 years, and you just think like, wow, how powerful is that? But like you said, the fact that people that don't even really know you, but not know you in person, and they're so willing to like help, is amazing. It's amazing.
One of my friends had popped on. Her name is Kia, and we met on here about close to 3 years now. And it started off, I don't even remember. She just asked me a simple question, and we just started chatting. The next thing, we exchanged phone numbers, and now we talk almost every day. Like, we're like best friends. And so I would have never met her. She's in Arkansas, I'm in New Jersey. The chances of ever meeting was slim to none. Yeah. And I can't imagine life without her. Like, I made my boyfriend joke about it. I'd be like, I think I love Kia more than you. I said, I think she's my girlfriend, but I don't like women, but she's my girlfriend. He'd be like, whatever.
But sometimes you connect with people on that soul level. If you've got that connection, that's really special, like, friendship wise, because you can have like friends that are, friends for different things, and associates, and sort of, it's not, but when you meet that person that you actually connect with in a friendship that you can trust, 100%, it's really special, isn't it? I do believe that you only tend to have that many on one hand, like really close, you know what I mean? People, you're
like your people, no matter what, like no matter what I call her with, because she could hear it in my voice. She'd be like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "I don't want to tell you." She said, "Just tell me." And she'd be like, "Okay, I understand. Well, how we fix it?" And even like when the books came out, she was like, she's so crazy. She was like, "This no need to go because I need to be the first person to get my book." I said, "Before me?" She said, "Yes, I want to be first." I said, "Okay."
That's lovely, though.
And I have another.
You need people like that in your life for sure. Yeah.
Sabrina, I met her. She lives in Florida. And she was like, "You need a LinkedIn, you need this, you need a link tree, you need to go on Facebook." She manages my Facebook some days. She goes in there and posts. And I was like, oh God. I couldn't ask for a better community. I just couldn't.
Wow. That's amazing. So really, as you say, you've been an author for the literally what last 6 months, 3 months, few months, and your journey is that you never even knew you were going to be an author. You kind of stumbled across it almost accidentally by choosing to go to the group about creative writing, but not really thinking anything of it. And then, wow, it was just like poured out of you like a powerhouse. And you've now published your 3 poetry books. You're writing book number 4. Do you want to flash those covers up for the viewers again, so you can get CJ's book, CJ Jenkins books. You can visit her TikTok page and have a look there. I don't know if you got TikTok shop or
I don't have TikTok shop. I need to look into that. I'm just on Amazon right now, so I haven't looked into that.
Yeah, and so basically you can check them out on that site that she just mentioned. I don't know if we're allowed to say it on TikTok, but I don't know. No, I don't know, because sometimes you get a violation for saying other
everything is on my page and my link tree.
Facebook, sorry. on if you check out CJ's TikTok, you'll see where you can look for her books. You can check them out online as well. And do you have a website? I don't have a website personally.
I don't. I just use the Facebook page so far. I haven't developed any websites, and that has been really helpful there. I mean, because you do the professional page on there. So
I don't need a website yet.
Well, I do use Linktree. Do you guys use Linktree there?
I haven't. I've heard of it, but I haven't been using Linktree.
So that was a good one because the lady I was telling you, Sabrina, set mine up. And so basically I just put the links to my books there, and also like any Amazon wish list, any link that you have all goes into that one thing. So anything, if somebody say, what's your gift list or what's this, they can just go there and find all of it. So that's in my bio.
It's a bit like Book Funnel. I used to have it, but I didn't. Yeah, have you had a Book Funnel?
No, I have never heard of it.
That's similar. And then but for me, what I do, I do live streaming on another app, and I sell that way. Yeah, and I package it up, put little gifts and things as well. But and if anyone's interested, you can have a look on my Facebook one. I think I'm allowed to say Facebook, and you'll see it there.
They be saying Book of Faces, so it makes me think you can't.
Book of Faces, yeah, there you go. That's a good one. I like that. And then the other one is what's the other? Yeah, but here, oh, by the way, the TikTok shop, I put mine on the TikTok shop maybe a few months ago, but it's not really. I mean, I haven't promoted much, but I haven't. There's no takers on here. What's going on? Where are they?
And see, that's another thing I'm not sure, because again, I'm so new to this. Yeah. I'm not sure, because I've heard if you're on KDP that you have like this ISBN and you can't sell at this site. So I haven't. Because I am really going through a depressive episode, I don't have the mental capacity to sit down. My 15-year-old does all the behind. I would have not really been able to publish these books without her. I write the books. She would go in and upload it and do the space, and I couldn't do that right now. So I have to give. Oh, and that's another thing. She writes poetry as well, and she has a poem in a new book. I asked her. So my daughter.
Show us her book.
This is the book, and in this book, Chloe has one poem in the back. So she did allow me to put a piece of her poetry in here. So so I'm excited about that for her.
That is really lovely. That's amazing. And you know what? And my daughter actually writes music as well. That's all I'm allowed to say. She won't want me to say anymore. But it's like the writing families here, isn't it? The writing family.
It's beautiful. It really is. I love it. And again, she's always done it. I've never even thought to write, but she's been writing since I can remember. Like I remember her being in elementary school and started to write. And in middle school, she was writing short stories. And I was like, you wrote that? And it never dawned on me to even think about writing. I just was like, oh, you're so amazing. And then I was like, wait a minute, I'm amazing.
You're both amazing. Both amazing. So yeah, I mean, it would be great if she can publish some more of hers as well. Put her work out there.
I encourage her. I am, because she almost didn't let me put it in a book, and she was like, "Nobody wants to read my poems." Yes, they do.
Yeah,
they do. Yes, they do. Poetry, that's the thing about poetry. It's so many different ways to write. You got to just find the one that you like.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's beautiful. I mean, I've written the odd little bit here and there, but I think poetry is beautiful. But I love writing the novels at the moment. But I love to kind of read other people's poetry and stuff like that. I don't mind, that because we've each got our kind of, what do you call it, gifting in our areas. Yeah, the areas that and you've got, the thing is, you've got to really love doing it. I like doing it on occasion to kind of play around with words, and so definitely whenever I've written it in the past, and not often, I've always written, I journal a lot, but if I've ever written poetry, it's always been something that's like quite deep inside, you know what I mean? It's that deep, like it's an emotional expression. I always find that. And that's the beauty, I think, of poetry. And here, I mean, I'm sure you have the same in the US. Well, I know you do, but I don't know whether you go to any. Do you have like book fairs?
Yes, and I haven't been to any. And that's the thing about like with the depression right now. I really don't go outside. I haven't been outside in over a month. So this has kind of been my escape. And I've been just going to therapy, doing a little baking, just trying to pull myself out. So eventually I do want to do like the book fairs and also have like a book signing myself. So I'm trying to get well enough to get there. But it's so funny as you were talking, I told you my brain is always calculating. I would love to do like a collab, like a book of poetry with different women.
Oh
I think
wow, yes.
yes, because as you
That's
said
a
that, you
good
like,
idea.
yeah,
Do
like
you know
how
what
you
you
said,
think? Have you read Acts of Faith?
no, no.
Oh my God, I love that. I love that book. It's what's her name again? Ivana
I
somebody.
can't think her last name, but I know who you're talking about. Okay.
Yeah, if you type in Acts of Faith, and that beautiful book, somebody gave it, my best friend actually gave it to me many, many years ago. You know, I feel like often with women, if you've had like a bit of a difficult um path,
Upbringing.
like, and I think, yeah, well, upbringing, life, not your standard kind of life. You kind of become quite deep inside, and you're quite searching, and you're not sure of yourself and this and that. So she'd given me that book at a time, back in my 20s, and I don't even know if I've still got a copy somewhere, but it's a beautiful book, literally, of quotes. I'm not joking. Quotes by famous people. It's got some biblical quotes, but quotes, famous quotes, different quotes, very spiritual type quotes, and they're really thought provoking. Heart quotes, thought provoking, and they just speak to you. And
Can you help
those,
again? I need to get a pen.
it's called Acts of Faith.
I usually have a pen somewhere, but I'm gonna try to remember it, and if
I
not,
can,
I'll end up.
I can message it to you after.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
I'll
please,
message
yeah.
it to
It
you.
sounds like I need that, like just something quick that
Yeah.
you can reference to.
And I was
Yeah.
like, whoa, that set me on a journey. That book, I will
Okay.
never forget that book. So yeah, I'll share it. I'll find it and I'll send it to you. I'll send you the
Okay.
link. Yeah, just so you can see what I'm talking about. But yeah, so look how powerful. And do you know what? I tell you that book sold millions of copies. A small little book with just beautiful scriptures, sold millions. And she's some motivational speaker.
I've seen her on like
But
TV and talking to
sold
people. And
millions.
you know what? It's funny you said that, and I don't mean to cut you off. I
Yeah.
remember being on Facebook, and it almost discouraged me. Had I saw that post on Facebook of Faces before I wrote this book, I probably wouldn't have wrote it. It was a lady that came on there, and she was asking people why her book wasn't selling, and it was like it's not big enough. And my first book is very thin. I mean, in case you didn't, it's a book of poetry. It's not that big. Had
Yeah.
I saw that comment, them tell her that, I would have never released this book. You don't need. It doesn't need to have impact. It doesn't need to be 1,000 pages.
No, it doesn't. And here's the thing. I've never seen, because I go to a lot of book fairs, right? And
Oh
I
yeah,
go to,
that's how you say it.
there you go. Yeah, yeah. Who said that? Susie G. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. Yes, it is. It's yeah, that's the lady. Yeah. Acts of Faith for people of color. It says the book is like Acts of Faith for people of color, but there's so beautiful scriptures, and some are scriptures, some are just famous quotes, some are just thought provoking things, quotes about life. But you'll turn one page and there's a little, it just speaks to you. It just speaks to your soul. And I feel it's like a real healing book. But that lady has a story. She's got a difficult
Yeah,
story.
I've
But yeah,
heard bits and pieces of it.
yeah,
Yeah.
anyway, I digress going on to that because I can talk for Kingdom Come. But
It's fine. I'm just so glad you had me. Like you're my first interview, so I will never, ever, ever forget this. I'm like so I was
Aw.
so nervous, but I mean, I feel like you just made me feel at ease. You did an amazing job.
Aw.
I'm going to actually start interviewing people, so hopefully you can come onto my show. I know
Oh,
we have a time difference, so
yeah.
mine is going to be at night. So I don't know how we would configure that because I think you said it's like a 5 hour difference. So maybe I'll do like a special segment earlier in the day. But I would love to have you on as well. I mean,
I
this
would
was
love to
really
come and
fun.
join. Yeah, yeah, we'll work it out for sure. I'd be up for that, absolutely. And I know we're ticking away now. Time is kind of ticking away because we put an hour slot. Just check we haven't missed any questions. No, we haven't. So I'll send you that book. But also just to kind of oh, the only thing I was going to say there was about the poetry. I joke you not, right? I go to quite a few book fairs, and I go to Oxford at the university book fair. They do it twice a year. And I tell you what, they love poetry. The people that go there, they sell more poetry than my books at that particular book fair. So they love poetry. There's a real fan base for poetry, and all of those poetry books, they're not big. I've got a poet friend who, he goes and does some readings, some poetry readings, and he goes to the Oxford Book Fair, and he always sells lots of copies there.
Wow.
Yeah,
So I'm looking forward to that. I mean,
yeah.
I just can't wait to really get out there because I mean, I think it's just needed. People, I don't know, I just think it's a need. And I think maybe poetry sells because it's a quick read. You can just pick up a
Yes.
poem and reference to it.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, so I think that's why so much because a novel takes a little bit of time because I've sat up all night reading a book. Easy.
Yeah, me too. But I don't even think it's just about quick read. I think it's about, because some of these, I observe people and I'm like, some people come and like, oh, I'm looking for poetry. They come and say, and they go looking for poetry. I'm like, oh, they love poetry. And I'm like, do you know what? And poetry is lovely. And I think what people really like about poetry, well, I know this is what I like, but I think a lot of people might, is you read it and you mull over it. You mull over it. And it speaks to you. And you mull over it. It's like you're almost meditating and you're mulling over it and you're thinking, so there's people that like to think and, it will speak to people that like to reflect and think. And there's people that specifically look for that for poetry. For sure.
Definitely. And it's so much emotion. It's just such a short thing. You figure you could have 5 or 6 stanzas and tell a whole story.
Yes. Yeah. And also it's the figuring out. There's like a little bit of mystery that you got to figure out. What are they saying? What's this verse supposed to be? I love all that. It's like, it's quite cryptic sometimes, isn't it?
Yes.
Well, CJ, we're coming to a close, by the way, everybody. Thank you for being here. We've still got people here. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you, and I could continue on and on and on, but I know I've got work in the morning.
Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for everyone that came in to support. We really appreciate you. And definitely support your artists. Like we both have great novels and poetry books out there. I don't know if we can say where they're at, but her page is listed, for people that are following me. Let's support each other.
Yeah. Check out our books, check out our pages. We are indie authors, independent, so we do everything ourselves. So we appreciate any kind of interest in our books, etc. So also just to say that if CJ wants to just show her covers one more time before she goes, please check them out. These are some fantastic poetry books written raw, unfiltered, deep from the heart. And CJ has spoken about how they're really focused on mental health, love, and survival. And they're speaking to people that are also going through some challenges. So if you think that was something that you might like to read, please do check out her books. And thank you for joining. Susie G said she loved it. Great interviews, lady. Someone else has said thank you so much. And I'll look forward to seeing you soon. I will send you some highlights.
Okay.
And probably tomorrow I'll go, because it takes a while to download it, put it on WeTransfer, and I send you the link, and then you've got a copy of the full interview. If it lets me download it, sometimes it's a bit techie issues, but usually it should do. How's that?
Yes, that's perfect. And thank you so much for having me. I am so honored. I really am.
I'm more honored. Thank you. Thank you for joining. I was so pleased when you said yes. Thank you so much.
Definitely seeing you soon.
Yeah, see you soon. I will definitely come along to one of your shows as well. I would love to. And in the meanwhile, have a lovely afternoon. Are you in the you're about 5?
It's 5:30 here, so yes, and you're at night, so we're just like almost 10 o'clock there.
Yeah, just gone 10:30.
Okay, well, have a great week. I definitely look forward to connecting with you soon. And thank you for everyone in the chat. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Love you loads. Bye. Bye, everybody. Bye.